Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is an episode of George Versus. Now this time, I'm taking on the state of women's wrestling. And I'm not talking about on the independent scene because we do have some great independent wrestling with your women, specifically Shimmer and Shine promotions that are all women's wrestling. I'm talking about what we're being presented on your two major companies, TNA and WWE. And I do recommend, if you have the time, search out Shimmer and Shine. I don't care if you're traditionally a fan of women's wrestling. It doesn't matter if you like just men wrestling. These matches and these women put on such great shows. Shimmer Eye Pay-Per-View or Shine Eye Pay-Per-View. It is on par with anything you'll see from any of your major independent companies, Ring of Honor, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Pro Wrestling Experience. All of them are right there on the same level as Shimmer and Shine put out. Speaking of the indie talent, the thing I really want to get into with this is how poorly both the Divas division in WWE and the Knockouts division in TNA are being booked and treated. They're treated as almost a nothing, an afterthought. We see regularly on Monday Night Raw a 5, 10, 6-woman, 8-woman, hodgepodge 3-minute match. And vice versa on the Knockouts side on TNA, we see Gail Kim wrestle one of the greatest women wrestlers of the last 20 years, wrestle in a 3-minute match. Here's where some of the points that I have that it could be a lot better than it is right now. First off, there's all kinds of indie talent, like I just said with Shimmer and Shine. Basically, you can import half their rosters. But some of the women I specifically want to point out, and if you haven't seen any of these women, go look for them because they're all amazing. You got girls like Amber O'Neal, Mischief, Cheerleader Melissa, Sue Young, Leva Bates, Awesome Kong, who is back on the independent circuit now. You know, girls like that, girls like Veda Scott, girls like Serena Deeb. There are plenty of amazing women's talent out there that could be used in such prominent roles that bringing them into something like the WWE or TNA would only help the product. Especially in something like TNA where they're trying to produce an alternate to WWE. Why not highlight, like they used to? A couple of years ago, they had a great women's division around 2007 to about 2009. They were stacked. They had a ton of great women's wrestlers. Heck, Cheerleader Melissa and Kong were both there. But they've gone away from that. They have only a handful there now. And that's not even including, you know, the girls that I just mentioned isn't even including the girls that you can bring up from NXT, like Emma, like Paige. There's some great wrestlers down in WWE developmental that aren't getting up there. Bailey. Plenty of talent out there to make these divisions bigger and more robust. And you know, that's going to go right into my second point. We're in the year 2014 now. Women's wrestling is should be more than just eye candy or relegated to stupid girlfriend gimmicks. I mean, AJ Lee's a good wrestler. She hasn't had a boyfriend gimmick in a good amount of time. But before that, they made her go through CM Punk, Daniel Bryan. She was in love with Kane. She tried to shab Dolph Ziggler. She didn't need any of that. They put Natalie Neidhart. They stick her with Khali. She doesn't need that. They're good wrestlers. Why can't they just be good wrestlers? We don't need to see John Cena's girlfriend to know he's a good wrestler. We don't need to see CM Punk's girlfriend to know that he's a good wrestler. We don't need Randy Orton's girlfriend. The women should be treated the same way. They shouldn't just be there for eye candy or to be somebody's girlfriend. They should just be on par with the men. And there should be monstrous women, there should be beautiful women, muscular women, all kinds of women of shapes, sizes, and colors, because you know different fans are going to attach to different things that they like. Not every guy likes a skinny blonde like Summer Rae. Some of us are attracted to girls like Awesome Kong. It's just a way of life. I know plenty of people that think ODB is one of the most beautiful knockouts in the world, and she's a thicker, more fuller figured woman. So you got people that like all different kinds of things, and I'm not just saying just aesthetically like. You got the girls out there and the women out there that are going to be drawn to someone that is their style. Someone like a Daphne would draw in the more, goth or emo style people that are prone to be wrestling fans. To me, I think that they're wasting so much of their storylines and so much of their time on how they book the women, and then when it's not getting over, they're blaming it on the women. Give us more to care about, give us better storylines, and we'll give a shit more. And that's just the fact of it. And there's been historical precedent. Women's wrestling, historically, has been on par with the WWE with men's wrestling, whether it be WWE, NWA, WCW, AWA. I mean, all we got to do is look back to some of the big stars in the history, girls like the Fabulous Moolah, one of the great wrestlers, man or woman, of all time. Our recently departed Mae Young, another one of the great women wrestlers of all time. Girls like Sherry Martel, Alundra Blaze, who was Medusa Michelli. These girls could highlight a pay-per-view. A girl like Awesome Kong, Gail Kim. They were the highlights of a lot of TNA shows. Lita, Trish Stratus. I mean, we have women that have proven that when given the right opportunity, they could be just as marketable, if not more. There was even a promotion back in the late 80s that ran to about, I want to say, 1990, 91, and it didn't end because of the popularity. It ended because the guy that was running it was trying to sleep with all the women, and his wife didn't like that. And that's G.L.O.W. I don't know if any of you really remember G.L.O.W, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, but it was a campy, gimmick-oriented, right on par with what WWE was doing with their Birdman, Coco Bewares, and Hillbilly Gyms of the time. You had G.L.O.W that would have Hollywood and Vine. They had Mountain Fiji. A bunch of amazing women. Little Egypt, Godiva, the farmer's daughter, I forget what her name was. Nanichka, who was a Russian. I mean, the fact that I haven't seen G.L.O.W in almost 25 years, and I can still remember these women and what they were doing, is a testament to how good that promotion was. It was a nationally syndicated show that in some parts of the country was beating out the WWE or beating out NWA, what it would go up against. And it was delivering really strong ratings. And like I said, they were crossing over. They would be on the Phil Donahue show, which some of you younger people don't know what that is. Sally Jesse Raphael. Again, this is stuff from the late 80s, so I don't expect everybody to remember that. But the promotion itself was huge. I mean, it had a huge following to this day. They just recently did a G.L.O.W documentary, and there's still a huge following for G.L.O.W. It's been proven in history that you can make women's wrestling marketable. And even if that wasn't the point, the present day, in other sports, the most comparable, quote-unquote, normal sport to wrestling, what WWE and TNA do, is mixed martial arts. And one of the biggest stars in MMA right now is Ronda Rousey. Who can argue with it? She's headlining pay-per-views, selling out. She's selling out arenas. She's unstoppable. People are paying to see her. People are listening to her trash talk almost like a WWE wrestler. People are buying into her feuds. The one she had with Misha Tate, which was the highlight of The Ultimate Fighter the last season, was amazing. People bought the pay-per-view in record numbers to see Ronda Rousey versus Misha Tate because they built them up, back to what I said a little bit earlier. Of course, both these women are extremely beautiful. Don't get me wrong. That had something to do with it. But they're more than eye candy. They're more than just somebody's girlfriend. Misha Tate is a well-rounded mixed martial artist. Ronda Rousey is a judo master that has made every single person she's got in the ring with tap out to an armbar. That's the kind of market, this is the kind of world we're living in now, where someone like Ronda Rousey could be a top star in MMA. So why couldn't someone like AJ Lee be a top star in WWE? It's not a far throw away from one to the other. I mean, something that'll sell in one will most likely sell in the other. It's a similar market base. Look how big a girl like Danica Patrick is just from racing in NASCAR. I mean, she doesn't even win often, and she's one of the hugest stars in the business, in NASCAR. To me, the whole point, and the whole thing that I'm really disappointed about, is it's an untapped market for revenue. We have young children, young girls, older women. Young girls are watching the show, and they're not seeing someone that they can relate to, and they're not becoming fans. Young boys are watching the show, and they can relate to John Cena. They can relate to Kofi Kingston. They can relate to CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, James Storm. These are people they see in their everyday life. They don't see AJ Lee. No one sees that crazy girl isn't. And that's a gimmick. That's something that doesn't happen much in real life. I mean, there are crazy girls, don't get me wrong. I've dated my fair share. But it's way more gimmick women wrestlers that they're not realistic. Someone like Gail Kim, absolutely 100% is realistic. She's the real deal. Don't get me wrong. That's someone that kids can look up to, and she could be a role model. She's a wonderful wrestler. She's a beautiful woman. She does everything you could possibly do right. And even her, she failed in WWE twice. And it's not her fault. It's the WWE's fault because they had no idea what to do with her. Just like right now, TNA has no idea what to do with someone of that talent. And to me, the whole thing, the state of women's wrestling, it's an untapped market which is dying for someone to stick a needle into it and draw the blood out and get all of this. Imagine if you had a girl version of John Cena, someone that the little girls can look up to. Now you got a whole generation of women who are growing up loving, whether it be Mickie James, Natalya Neidhart, Emma, Paige, whoever it may be. Some of the girls I mentioned earlier, like Leva Bates and Amber O'Neal. Imagine young women looking at these girls for role models and then growing up and then passing this on to their children as something they do together. Right now, it's young men and their fathers or uncles or bigger brothers pass wrestling on to them, and they watch it with their fathers, uncles, and so on. And there's women wrestling fans, don't get me wrong, but I think you could multiply that market if you would tap into the women's wrestling scene that's already there on the indies, bring it to the national prominence, give them more than 10 minutes. Hell, WWE has 6 hours of primetime wrestling shows. You're telling me that the women only deserve 20 minutes of that? Give me a break, guys. I think that they really need to step their game up, start getting into the indies. They might not see the returns right away, but their long-term investment will be well worth it. But basically, that's all I have to say on this topic. My name is George Coles, and this has been another George Versus.